Why does making friends as an adult feel so
What
hard?
should I wear on a first
What the
date?
hell is a foreign?
But that
Why
hookup
is
was
buying my
not
first
good.
home
So
What do I want my
frustrating.
life to look like in 5 years?
We want to know too.
Since 2012, the Everygirl has been an online destination to help women around the world achieve the life of their dreams. Now, we're excited to bring you the same inspiring content with the Everygirl podcast.
Welcome back to the Everygirl podcast. I have gotten today's question a lot over the years, whether it was from listeners or readers from the Everygirl or my clients, and understandably so because it is super confusing. This week's question is, can you explain the pros and cons of all the different types of milks between almond, oat, dairy? I am so confused what is the healthiest milk to add to my coffee. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of information, and I feel like there's a new, trendy milk that comes up every couple years, which makes it very overwhelming. And of course, it's hard to know the healthiest option for you. The frustrating answer is that it depends on your body and your health goals. But I promise to break it down so that you feel fully confident in making the healthiest decision, whether you're ordering a latte out or you're buying milk at the grocery store. We are about to debunk a lot of myths today. This is going to be a deep dive, so I can provide you with as much information as may be helpful to you, but I don't want it to get overwhelming. So I will also break down the best milk for you based on your goals. If you just want to be kind of told what's best without all the information, I got you too. Why I say it depends is because every milk has pros and cons, and so it's about making decisions based on your body and needs. I'm going to go through each popular milk option and walk you through how to decide what's best for you. The first milk I'm going to start with is dairy milk because as a society, we have gone from a full-fledged war on dairy where wellness girls would have never had a sip of regular milk during the whole vegan plant-based era to people now being obsessed with animal products. If you are lactose intolerant or dairy gives you symptoms, then the obvious answer is dairy is not for you. But if you do not feel any symptoms when drinking dairy, having a good, organic, ideally grass-fed or pasture-raised whole milk is an amazing healthy option. It's high in protein and healthy fats. There are about 8 grams of protein per cup. It also contains calcium, B vitamins, sometimes it has omega-3. So milk can definitely be a very nutritious option, especially compared to an oat milk or nut milk that are a lot lower in nutrients and have virtually no protein or even fats. Dairy also has naturally occurring sugars that make it a really effective pre-workout if you'd like to have a coffee before you exercise. This is my favorite pre-workout, like a good whole milk latte. Perfect. Now, why it's important to get organic and ideally grass-fed or pasture-raised with any dairy products or animal products in general is because conventional dairy may contain antibiotics. The dairy cows are also fed chemicals to get them to produce more milk, and also for the treatment of animals, which is a big priority of mine. Obviously, smaller organic farms treat their cows better, and grass-fed is not only better for the health of the product, but it also indicates that the animals get to at least roam in a field sometimes instead of the practices of factory farming. So that's why I prefer organic and grass-fed. Now, whether organic is really that much healthier is controversial. There's a lot of split research on this. There's some studies that have shown typically conventional milk actually does not contain antibiotics, while other studies I've seen shows that it can. So it can get very confusing. Technically speaking, and I want to clarify this so you don't need to panic if you do drink non-organic milk, because of the pasteurization and other practices, all milk produced in the United States must adhere to the same strict federal standards for quality, purity, and sanitation. According to the American Dairy Association, what that USDA certified organic seal really means for milk and other dairy is that the cows are exclusively given food grown without the use of pesticides or commercial fertilizers. They're given at least periodic access to pasture. They're not treated with supplemental hormones, and they have never been given certain medications. Now, people will say that these differences don't actually affect the health of the milk, but to be honest, just intuitively, I just feel like these factors would make a difference, and I just trust the practices of organic farms more. So if I can help it, I try to avoid dairy milk if it's not organic. I will buy milk and use that as my coffee creamer a lot of the time because it is the most nutrient dense option, especially as a vegetarian. It's helpful to get protein in when I can. And I especially love it before a workout because of that protein and then the naturally occurring sugars. It has a lot of vitamins, a lot of good nutrients in it. I like to do whole milk or 2% if whole milk isn't available. I don't like a skim milk personally. My food philosophy is the closest to nature, the better. And removing fat is not necessarily a good thing. It's taking out a lot of good fats that our body loves and knows what to do with. Like, I don't want to get rid of that fat and process my food any further. At this point in time, we already know that the whole anti fat movement was really a marketing ploy and not actually healthy for us. So we can move on and break up with skim milk unless it's recommended by your doctor or nutritionist. Here are a couple of my exceptions for dairy. I tried to avoid dairy like the week or so before my period and then the first few days of my period. I feel like it just makes my period symptoms worse. Hormone expert Elisa VT also recommends avoiding dairy before and during your period, so that's what I do. But if it doesn't affect your period, then go off. There's also a good amount of research behind the negative effects dairy can have on certain conditions like PCOS. So if you're curious about how dairy affects your body, you can always try to eliminate it for a couple months at least to see how your body responds without it. And as always, talk to your doctor. And then my other exception is that if I'm ordering coffee out, I will typically not do a dairy milk because I don't know if it's organic or not, and it's likely conventional if you're ordering coffee at a coffee shop. Again, you can do the research for yourself if you're interested in learning more about the studies behind conventional versus organic. I don't want to do any fear mongering. I think there's too much of that going on in the wellness industry as it is. But for me, just intuitively, conventional milk honestly kind of freaks me out and I just feel bad for the cows. So I just try to do, whatever I can. Okay, let's get into the non-dairy milk options. The first one, almond milk or other nut milks like cashew milk. The cons of nut milks are that they're very low in protein and fats. The process of making nut milk apparently removes all of the protein and fats that are found in whole nuts. The pros are that some nut milk, like almond milk, contains phytonutrients like calcium or vitamin E. It's also lower in calories and carbohydrates. So, again, just like a safe, solid option, obviously, as long as you're not allergic to nuts. I would get organic again here because nuts are a highly sprayed crop. So, organic will ensure to reduce any possible lingering pesticide exposure. And you also want to check the ingredients because a lot of nut milks contain added thickeners and gums or added sugar. I love the brands Elmhurst or Malk because they are just the basic ingredients of organic almonds, filtered water, and sea salt. And Malk's unsweetened vanilla just has some vanilla bean in there. It's so good. The next milk option is coconut milk. It's one of my favorite types of milk because it's a lot thicker than nut milks and it's higher in fats that are really great for you. I personally like having a milk option that if it doesn't contain as much protein, it at least contains fats to get more of that in my diet. It's low in carbohydrates, which makes it a good option if you're trying to lower blood sugar or you're doing a ketogenic diet or anything like that. This is such a great hack too. You can get organic coconut milk in a BPA-free can for just, I think, a couple dollars. I get them from Trader Joe's, and the only ingredient is organic coconut milk. So there's no additives, and it's so much cheaper than getting a high-quality organic nut milk. When I'm buying coffee out, coconut milk is my first choice because, first of all, I love the taste and the thickness of it, but also from a health perspective. Because coconut milk is inside a shell, like it's, in the coconut, I think of it like if it's not organic, the inside of the coconut, the milk inside, is less likely to be exposed to pesticides in the farming process than something like almonds. That's just kind of what makes sense to me. So if you don't want to pay for organic, or if you're out and you're unsure if something's organic or not, coconut milk seems to me like it might be the safest option. The cons of coconut milk are just that it's low in protein and typically does not have a lot of vitamins or minerals unless it's fortified with added vitamins. Okay, soy milk. Soy milk is pretty controversial. The biggest benefit to soy milk is that it is by far the highest in protein of all the non-dairy milks. It's about 7 grams per 1 cup, so it's a great alternative for someone who wants protein but can't have dairy. Why it's controversial is because soy contains phytoestrogens, which are plant compounds that basically mimic estrogen in the body and can affect the body in a few different ways. There's actually been some research that shows a moderate amount of phytoestrogens can actually provide health benefits, like potentially hormonal and heart health benefits. But the problem comes in because there used to be a commonly widespread idea that eating soy led to breast cancer based on research that came out of the late 1990s and early 2000s that suggested that soy might increase breast cancer risk because of these phytoestrogens and how they affect the body. I've done a lot of research on this over the past few years because I eat a lot of tofu as a protein source, which tofu is soy. Based on what I've been able to find, a lot more recent studies actually show the opposite effect. A 2019 study in Cancer Causes and Control showed that a higher soy consumption was actually linked to a lower risk of breast cancer in women. More recent studies show that in Asian populations where soy intake is very high starting in childhood, soy is associated with a reduced risk of breast cancer. Looking into more possible negative effects, I found one study that indicated that soy could mildly interfere with thyroid hormone production if you have low iodine levels. So, soy is still a super controversial topic. To me, it comes down to, just like with everything else, the quality really matters. So, if you're getting a high quality, low processed option, it's likely a healthy option for you. I personally don't do soy milk, but that's just because I eat a lot of tofu and tempeh, so I don't want to overdo anything. But if you don't otherwise have a lot of soy in your diet, based on all the research that I can find, a clean organic soy milk could be an amazing high protein milk option if you can't do dairy. But obviously, make sure your iodine levels are good and talk to your doctor before making other changes to your diet or if you have any questions about how soy could affect your body. Now let's talk about oat milk, which became like the it milk that all the wellness girls were raving about a few years ago. Again, this is all about making decisions that are best for you. So if you go to a coffee shop and your only options are dairy and oat milk and your body does not react well to dairy, oat milk is going to be the healthier option for you. But overall, I do not really like oat milk from a health perspective. For one reason, oats are another highly sprayed crop, so a non-organic option may have a lot of pesticide residue, specifically glyphosate. In 2023, the Environmental Working Group reported that glyphosate levels in oat-based products have decreased over time, so that's great news. But at that point that they did the testing, 30% of items tested still contained detectable amounts of the pesticide. So I always just like to do organic to minimize what I can. It's not perfect, but I think of it as a potential security measure that is worth the extra dollar or two when you're buying an organic brand over a conventional one. But beyond the pesticides, oat milk is also low in fats and protein and higher in carbohydrates compared to other non-dairy milk. So if you're someone that has a coffee on its own, like before breakfast, and you're adding oat milk, it can spike your blood sugar because of the carbohydrates, which may lead to more cravings and energy crashes throughout the day. And if this happens chronically, imbalanced blood sugar can affect your hormones and weight and other health factors. Personally, I avoid oat milk because I consume a lot of carbohydrates in my diet. My diet is very carbo heavy, especially when I'm traveling or when I'm not eating at home. I definitely have higher amounts of carbohydrates in balance with proteins and fats, which is fine, but it's just about balance with my entire diet and minimizing the carbohydrates where it doesn't really matter to me. But on the other hand, there has also been an obsession with this idea of like glucose and blood sugar balancing lately, and I don't want to add to that kind of fear mongering. So just know that if you eat a diet full of protein and healthy fats and you don't eat a ton of processed, refined carbohydrates every day, you likely don't have a problem regulating glucose levels. And your body knows how to stabilize after, half a cup of oat milk. Also, always remember that the degree to which oat milk, or honestly any food, impacts your blood sugar is completely individualized. It depends on your biochemistry. If you do prefer oat milk and you're worried about the glucose spike, you can also consume your oat milk latte with a meal where you're also having protein and fats and fiber. Like have your oat milk coffee with your veggie omelet instead of on its own. And that will help stabilize the glucose levels so that the carbohydrates don't give you that much of a spike as they might otherwise. But it's not about demonizing any one food. That is not what I'm trying to do here. It's just about having the knowledge to make intentional decisions. I know a lot of people who aren't drinking dairy prefer the taste of oat milk because it froths better than almond milk. My fiance recently found out he's allergic to dairy, and oat milk is the only milk alternative I've been able to get him to agree to because he doesn't like the others. So whatever, we just get him an organic oat milk at home, and then whatever oat option when he gets coffee out, it's nothing to stress about. So again, it's not to say that you should not have oat milk, but what I don't want is someone who can tolerate dairy completely fine, or who maybe does like a coconut milk or an almond milk, chooses oat milk because they think it's the healthiest option just since it was in vogue for the past couple of years. My thesis statement on oat milk is that I want you to know the facts so you're not picking oat milk thinking it's the healthiest option since it's relatively low in nutrients. But with that being said, if it's your favorite milk option, having a little bit with your coffee every morning or in a bowl of cereal here and there is okay. It's not going to destroy your health if you treat your body healthy in all the other ways you can nourish your body. I know I just threw a lot at you, so let me break it down and keep it simple based on your goals. If your goal is to consume more protein, dairy milk with about 8 grams per cup or soy milk with about 7 grams per cup is your best bet. If your number one priority is something that is very thick or that froths well, dairy milk or oat milk are likely your best options. If you want a lower carbohydrate milk, coconut milk is the lowest in carbohydrates. Almond milk has the lowest calories, which I personally don't care about or recommend people to care about, but just so you know what's up so you can make decisions for yourself. If you want a ketogenic diet or you want to increase your fats, coconut milk is going to be your best bet. For my routine, I will have a dairy milk at home so I can buy a really high quality grass-fed whole milk option. I try to get it from more local farms when possible. And then I also usually have a milk, almond milk, or a couple cans of the BPA-free organic coconut milk at all times too, in case I want to use it in a recipe or smoothie or something, because too much dairy can bother me, so I don't want to drink so much of it, but a little bit of my coffee is fine. And then I will limit dairy completely about a week before my period and will switch to almond or coconut milk in my lattes and things like that. All right, so that's some insight. I hope that was helpful. I had no idea I could talk for this long about milk for your coffee. Let me know if you want any more deep dives on any other topics. I feel like I could talk about oat milk alone or even glucose for an hour. So let me know if you have any other deep dive topics you want me to cover on these episodes. Thanks for listening. If this episode brought you any value or clarity, please leave a 5-star review to support the show and to help me know what you want more of. DM us at the Everygirl Podcast if you have a question you want us to answer on air. Talk to you on Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at the Everygirl Podcast on Instagram or at theeverygirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.